Hi folks, welcome back to Elemental Cartomancy. This is going to be our week ahead reading for week commencing the 20th, but first and foremost I thought it'd be good to take a very quick look back at our reading for last week. So I'll put that on the screen just now, so you should hopefully be able to see that and my daft smiling face. So I think we said last week was probably going to be quite intense, and that, I don't know about you guys, but that definitely played out for me. There was definitely lots of things going on. That was really it. There was days where there was just so much going on. There was one particular day through the week where the cable guys came to basically upgrade my internet, but they turned up when I was working. They were like, oh yeah, we just need to drill this hole right through your wall into the next door close. So I was like, oh my goodness, what? I didn't know this was happening. I just imagined they'd be, I don't know, connecting something up using a new cable or something, but no. I was told that I wasn't going to lose internet because I knew I would be working from home that day. And lo and behold, I ended up losing internet, and I won't go into it. It was a big long story, but I ended up for a few hours having to use my phone as a hotspot and work using that, which wasn't great. And whilst all that's happening, fireworks have started here. Everyone seems to love a good firework here, but my dogs are terrified of them. So I hate fireworks. And that, to be honest, that's been a theme throughout the whole week. The other thing that's happened is, we had cleaners in on Monday, and I think they might have made a bit of a scratch on the floor when they were moving the sofa. So that's potentially the Monday card, the Seven of Swords, those swords dinged into the floor. Potentially that's what's going on there. So anyway, reading definitely played out in more ways than that, but that's just a quick overview. But on to the coming week. So week commencing the 20th, the decks that I'm going to use Chris-Anne's Sacred Creators Oracle again to start us off. Then I'm going to do the reading with Chris-Anne's Lightseers Tarot. And then finally, again, I'll use Ari Wisner's Find Your Own Way Oracle to just kind of wrap things up. So, I have gave these cards a shuffle, but let's just do it again. Okay, lead your metamorphosis. So, if there's any changes that we want to see happen this week, we need to take ownership of that. We can't be just sitting idly by and expecting someone else or some other kind of outside force to come in and make these changes happen. That is true any week, to be honest with you. I think that's quite good advice that we could always keep in mind. But particularly it's coming up for us this week. So let's bear that in mind this week. This coming week, anytime we find ourselves thinking, all right, well, I really wanted it that way, or I really wanted that to happen, or I wanted to achieve this, let's make sure that we're doing the work to make sure that that happens, and not just expecting it to happen, not just expecting the universe to throw us a bone. Okay. Let's have a wee look at the week then and see what's coming up. Okay, we're starting off with 8 of Pentacles reversed for Monday's card. So right away what I'm going to say is Monday, which for me is tomorrow, I'm filming this on the Sunday. 8 of Pentacles is the kind of a working hard and being consistent and building up your practice type card, but when it's in reverse, that makes me think of, right, consistency for consistency's sake. We're just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results and wondering why nothing's changing, okay? Which kind of comes back to this Lead Your Metamorphosis card.
So again, I'll say it again, if we want to see a change, we need to do something different. Alright, we need to be the change that we want to see. Queen of Swords for the next card, for the kind of a Tuesday card, is actually quite nice, because where the Eight of Pentacles reverse sees us kind of doing things over and over again, the Queen of Swords is bringing that logic, is bringing that kind of that wisdom, that reason into the situation. She's even, like, if you kind of look at her expression, she's pondering, she's thinking, she's making a plan. So we start off maybe kind of going through the motions, then we take a pause, we stop and we think about things. Okay, now for Wednesday's card we see the Seven of Cups coming out, and that maybe suggests to me that we're thinking a wee bit too much and not actually doing anything about it. So we're letting that thinking phase get away with itself. We're forgetting that after making a plan we actually need to take action. Yeah, so we're getting these cups reversed coming up for Wednesday and Thursday. So definitely getting the feeling that we've got our head in the clouds. We're maybe kind of not quite seeing things as they are. Maybe we're pulling the wool over our own eyes midweek. Maybe it's just a particularly intense week emotionally, and this is our way of coping with it. Friday we've got the Two of Swords in reverse. Saturday, the Ace of Swords in reverse, and Sunday, the Eight of Swords upright. So I was like, come on, give us a wee upright, give us something nice, and it's the Eight of Swords. Anyway, so Two of Swords but in reverse. So we are stuck in a stalemate, essentially. Which, Seven of Cups reversed is kind of like the overwhelm, the Netflix scenario where there's so much choice that we end up not making a choice, and we see that kind of still feeding through on the Friday card. Okay, with the Two of Swords reversed, they're both cards about making choices, and given that they're both reversed, I'm getting the feeling that we're actually just not making the choice. We're expecting the choice to be made for us. Again, lead your metamorphosis. If you want things to change, you need to make the choice, you need to take the action, you need to kind of make a plan and actually do the thing, okay? But it feels like maybe like the Page of Cups, maybe we've got our head in the clouds a wee bit. Maybe we're being overly emotional about the situation, we're too much in our heart and not enough in our head. Tuesday feels like a really kind of this feels like the odd one out. Do you know what I mean? This feels like the day when we're doing our thinking, where we are kind of very much, thinking about things rationally and looking at things with wisdom, and not with, just being overly emotional about them. Do you know what I mean? Potentially that, this kind of a failure to make a choice might lead to some missed opportunities. When I see aces upside down, I'm always thinking missed opportunities, but be careful as well, because the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Swords in general cuts through the bullshit. Do you know what I mean? It's the sound logic and reason that cuts through everything. It's usually so it's an ace, so it's a new beginning, new potential. So think beginner mindset, think seeing things in a new way, and that's the sword that cuts through the bullshit. When swords are upside down, I tend to see them becoming more like weapons, like an actual sword does. So just be careful about that. Looking more it's in the Saturday position, but this is all fluid, so looking more towards the end of the week, the weekend. It looks as though there's potentially a bit of a missed opportunity because of a failure to make a definite choice through the week. And then, again, that feeling of being, trapped. Notice though that what's happening in the reflection is not what's actually happening to her in real life. So there's a feeling of being kind of trapped and stuck in one place, but that's not the actual situation. So there's a bit of a need to stop catastrophizing and kind of open your eyes and see things as they truly are, So another intense reading, another intense week. Let's wrap this up with one of Ari Wisner's Find Your Own Way Oracle cards. So these are usually quite affirming. So let's see what we've got.
You are nature. You are nature. So, in the context of all of this, when it's talking about lead your metamorphosis, lots of times when things happen, when things go wrong, when we start catastrophizing, or we start thinking, oh, well, I couldn't really have affected that because the weather happened, or I couldn't really have done that the way that I wanted it to happen because of X, Y, Z, because of all these external forces. You know, the universe was out to get me type thing. But you are nature. You can always, you know, plan for these things, okay? So when we're kind of when we think in that way, we're like kind of pointing the finger and say, oh, well, you know, if only it wasn't for that. I feel like this is like kind of the nature is maybe what we're blaming, and this is reminding us that we ultimately we create our own reality. We shape our own reality by the way we think and the kind of choices that we make. And there are lots of things that are outside our control, but there's a lot more within our control than what we give ourselves credit for. And I think that's what this is kind of reminding us of. It's reminding us of our own power and our own ability to make choices and influence the way that things turn out through the actions we take, the choices we make. Okay. So my advice, just taking all of that into account, is you've got a lot more power and sway than what you think you do. And if you find yourself struggling to make a choice, just go for it. Break this chain. Prove me wrong. Break this and actually just make the choice. If you can try and bring that sound logic into it of the Queen of Swords, then please try and do that. But I feel like the most important thing is to actually just choose a path, just actually make a choice. Don't get stuck in this kind of a stalemate where we're missing opportunities because we're not making the choice, you know. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful and meaningful for you. Let me know how last week went, like what your reflections are on last week's reading and how your week played out. Let me know what your thoughts are for your upcoming week, and whether you've enjoyed the reading. If you did enjoy it, leave me a wee like, that'd be great. And yeah, take care. Thank you so much, and I will see you all later. Bye everyone.